Right, a quick review of where we currently are then. As some of you will be aware, I went down to the pound shop and I spent a £5 on 5 bushcraft related items. Number 1, I got some jute twine. No explanation needed for that. Number 2, also for £1, I got some 3 tubes of super glue, useful basically for sticking things, so no explanation required there. Number 3, I bought what is probably supposed to be a tablecloth, which doubles as a shemag, and I thought I would dye that using nettles. So that was about, when this video comes out, that'll be 3 videos ago, and that was disappointing, but I still learnt from it, so I wrote that one off as a failure and something to come back to. Now number 4 was 30 tea light candles for £1, because I use these to make the little stoves, one of which is burning now, and I made a little video on that, and that was a tremendous success. And this is the one I used where I put the holes in, so this can be refilled, used again, bit of sawdust for the wick and etc. It's all on the video. The last item that we haven't yet covered was one of these solar powered garden lamps. And before you write this off, because I know, well, everybody who goes into the outdoors, especially as the nights are starting to draw in, will appreciate some form of illumination, and mostly we all use one version or another of a head torch, because they're very convenient. They put the light in the direction you want it, and you can get torches with red light and white light, and they last a reasonably long time. But the cost, or a decent one anyway, will cost you more than £1, or in the pound shop you'll have to buy the batteries separately. So I thought, is there any mileage in one of these lights? Well, I already know that there is, because I use one as my bedside lamp. This one hasn't got a battery in at the moment. This is the one I use as my bedside lamp. So this was a solar light. It was one exactly like this, and there's the solar panel on this one, and it's got a little circuit board inside it with a chip with 4 pins. It's got another little component which is an inductor, then it's got the solar panel and a battery, a rechargeable battery, and the LED is in there. And all I've done is I've taken out the integrated circuit there, the little 4-pin circuit, and the little inductor, wired it up to a switch and a battery to the LED, so there's no solar panel in it. Now this is used to running off the rechargeable battery, which is 1.2 volts. So if you get yourself a flat 1.5 volt AA, so this is flat, so this is after you've used it in your camera or whatever, and it won't work in your camera anymore, you can take it out, you can pop it in there, and that's just the, I've cut down the section that the battery went in and made a hole for it in this piece of wood, bunged it in there, put a switch on it, Be able to see this come on. There you go. There's it on and off, on and off. And you're going to say to me, well, that's no use, is it? You're not going to see anything with that. But when I have this on the bedside table and I get up in the night, I wake up in the night, and I know exactly where it is, so I can just switch it on. But that's actually enough illumination there to illuminate the whole room. So I mean, it's my room, I know where things are, so I can easily find my way around. Yeah, I can easily look at my clock, which is difficult to see. In fact, I usually stand my clock there, and I can see the dials of the clock all right. So in a bushcraft environment where you're in your shelter, whatever your shelter is, on a night, an LED, and I'll prove it when it gets dark, is easily enough light to see by. And I think I've seen some fantastic reviews on very, very powerful torches. But the problem with a very powerful torch is it completely destroys your night vision. And when it gets dark over a period of about half an hour, if you don't get dazzled by any bright lights, your eyes adapt over half an hour, and you can see much better than if you were just suddenly plunged into darkness. And a lot of these powerful torches are they're destroying your night vision, so you can actually get away with a lot dimmer torch. Now, the other advantage of taking a torch like this, or using something like this as your torch, is that it's rechargeable. So if I were doing a little expedition, say across the desert for a while, not desert so much, but I'm just thinking back of some things that I have done, where you're going to be out for a week or more, and you don't need to resupply batteries with one of these. So it's no good for looking, you know, like through woodland or searching for somebody in the dark, but it's a good backup. And this is quite bulky as it is. I've got another version of it here somewhere. It's right behind me, the other version. But so I've just when it gets a bit of light on it, it switches off. When the light hits the solar panel, it's dusk now, but it's still enough light to switch it off. But so you can just carry that around with you, which is tremendously light. It would be even lighter if you took the stainless steel outer off it. And it's got a little switch on it, so when you're not using it during the night, you can switch it off, and when you want it on, you can switch it on. And it's not a lot of light, but it's enough to look in the bottom of your rucksack, to illuminate your shelter, and to rake around for any bits that you've lost. when I took the skin of the orange off, it sat like that. So I took that section off first, which comes off with a little hole down the end there, and then this, when I took this section off, you can't really see that, but the pith is still connected to the skin and comes up through the middle. So a little bit later on tonight, that's actually going to form a wick, and I've got some olive oil here, so I'm going to turn that orange into a little lantern or oil lamp. So those little stoves are going to withstand some gale force winds, I would think. Once they get going, it seems you can't just blow them out. Okay, well, it's about 2:45 in the morning, and as you can see, it's a bit dark. So I've got the solar light, which I bought from the pound shop, that rather large one. I'm going to switch it on, and that's it switched on, and you can see from my hand there, it throws out at close range a fair bit of light. Enough light for me to see around in the tent. So I can see with my night adapted eyes a lot better than the camera can. And in fact, so I could find anything in this tent. It only illuminates a small area, so I've got to move it around, but it does work. And because it's white light, and Mad Dog Survival on his channel, he did demonstrate quite well that you really do need a white light to read a map, because if you use a red light, then anything that's red just disappears, and if it's too blue, anything that's blue will just disappear. But with this light I can see the blue lakes, the blue of the grid lines, the red of the roads, the green of the woods, and the brown of the contour lines, and the yellow B roads. So I can see all this map quite well. Admittedly, this is not very powerful, but my eyes are night adapted, and if I start using powerful torches, then I lose my night vision. Most of us do carry a head torch, and I've got one on at the moment, so I'll ping my head torch on. That's my head torch. That puts a bit more light on the subject. I've got I've also got what is, I'll switch my head torch off. I've got what is my bedside light. So this is with my bedside light here, and I've got just that solar panel, dollar store, pound store solar panel here. I've got the other solar light here, which is quite bright. So for just local small scale illumination, these garden solar lights are quite adequate, and this little one here is very self-contained with its solar panel on it, its on-off button on it. This other larger one does need a bit of modification, really, I would say, but it's a useful torch. Anyway, so that I knew would be a success because I used the one with the flat 1.5 volt battery as my bedside lamp, and it's quite sufficient to illuminate the bedroom when my vision is adapted. And it's important not to lose your night vision. But earlier on in the proceedings you saw me peeling an orange, and the reason I was peeling that so carefully was because if you've got some olive oil with you, you can use virtually anything as a little lantern. Try not to spill the olive oil. So what I've got here, I've actually fired it up already, but what I've got here is the half orange, which if you peel it carefully you can leave the pith sticking up in the middle of the hemisphere, and then you can pour your oil over it. And you can use that pith in the middle there, wicks the oil up and just acts as a wick. And that orange is not dried out or anything. That wick does not have to be dried out. So you don't need to spend a lot of money on these powerful torches, but I must admit powerful torches do definitely have their place. But even this little lantern that I've made with the orange, that's already damaged my night vision to some extent. Whereas if I don't look directly at the tea lights, at the solar lights, solar garden lights, then they're enough to read by but don't destroy my night vision, and they're enough to map read by as well. And the dog's going to set fire to everything. Susie, you get off the map. You're a daft dog, aren't you? Eh? You're daft. So I just wanted to demonstrate them. It is because we live in an industrialised area, although there's heavy cloud, so I can't see any stars whatsoever, there's enough light reflected from the clouds, from the street lights and the industrial complexes, that it's not bright out there, but you could see to not bump into things. So I might just get back to bed. Do you reckon? Eh? You gormless knithead. So you don't have to spend a fortune. Even though some of those torches are very robust and they're going to illuminate areas, well, you can't see beyond a few feet with these. It's only for messing about in your bag and your shelter, not really for going anywhere. But as a handy little cheap, even map reading, saving your night vision, not having a naked flame. These little oil lamps, I wouldn't leave a orange based. I have let one burn out just to see if it would all catch on fire, and it didn't, but I wouldn't rely on it not all catching on fire when it got very low down. But I have burnt one completely out, twice in fact, and it didn't all catch fire, but I wouldn't rely on it not all catching fire. And you can use any vegetable oil in it, but obviously they are prone to making a mess. So it's all really about improvisation. And one of the brilliant things about taking a one of these solar panels that ordinarily has a AA style battery in it is, if you're using those type batteries in other pieces of equipment, when those batteries in the other pieces of equipment are too flat to function anymore, just whack them in your LED light, and they'll just carry on going. For example, one thing I would carry with me if I had enough carrying capacity is a little radio. I've actually got one much smaller than this. This is in fact a windy up and solar radio. Anyway, that's enough of that. But the bad thing about this is it's got a torch on it, but the torch is an incandescent torch, so it really wants replacing with an LED. It doesn't suck so much power, but it does have a hand dynamo on it. And a solar panel on the top. But mostly I would consider this too heavy to carry. Right, so I think we ended on a success there with these little LED lights. Not much good for long range activities, but good enough for just in the shelter or for map reading, and to preserve, or to some extent to preserve your night vision. But on their own I wouldn't take just one of these. A decent torch is to be recommended, and if you can run to the money, one of these powerful little torches. So that'll be it for a week or so now.